everybody, welcome back. This week we're talking about one of my ultimate favorite things to talk about for therapists and the ultimate thing to help them do with their practices, and that is branding. I know, branding. What? I'm a therapist. Why do I need a brand? Well, stay tuned and we'll come back and talk about the 3 myths about branding that you might believe and why as a therapist you should definitely be building one. Hey everybody, okay, welcome back. So like you can see, I'm really excited this week because this is something that I just love to talk about. I love to talk about the idea of building a brand for therapists because it is something that many of us don't always understand. It's kind of this esoteric or ethereal concept of like a brand. It's not exactly tangible. It's hard to measure. It's hard to even talk about what it is. And a lot of therapists don't want to entertain the idea of building one because it's hard for them to think of therapy as a commodity. They're familiar with big brands such as like Coca-Cola or something like that, and they don't necessarily see how the branding concept applies to a little old private practitioner who's just trying to build their caseload. So today, that's what I want to talk about, is maybe these 3 myths or 3 misguided beliefs that you might have about the branding process and what exactly it means to build a brand. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is that brands are not just for consumer products, okay? That is something that a lot of people have been taught or have been told, is that branding is for conglomerations. Branding is for physical products, like buying a can of Coke or something like that. But branding, especially in the digital age, is becoming more and more important, and it's even more important for small businesses and small businesses that offer services and not necessarily products, okay? We'll get into why that is in a moment, but I want you to get out of your head or kind of come to the other side of thinking that branding is not just for big multinational corporations and it's not just for physical products. Okay, the second thing I want you to think about is that branding is not your logo. Okay, a lot of you are thinking, well, I have a logo, or I like the color green, and so that's my brand. But branding, while visuals are an important part that we'll talk about in a moment, branding is not just about the logo that you are stamping on your business cards or the logo that's in the upper corner of your website. Branding is so much more than that. Now, with that said, you might believe the third myth about branding, and that's that branding is hard. But actually, branding really is not hard. And if you've been following along in the Online Marketing with Empathy Facebook group and answering some of these questions, you've probably been secretly branding yourself or your practice and you don't even recognize it yet, okay? Because I want to tell you what a brand actually is. A brand is actually the cohesive message that you spread about your practice through the copy on your website, through your visuals, through the environment that you set up in your practice, as well as through the way you talk to other people about your practice, okay? So it is the feeling that you give off. It is the way you want somebody to experience your practice. A really great thing to think about is your brand is your reputation, okay? So I want you guys to take a little trip down memory lane with me and go back to high school when we all used to talk crap about each other behind each other's backs, right? Maybe some of you still do some of that, or know people who are adults and are still doing some of that. No judgment here, but your brand is your reputation. So think about, how do you want somebody to talk about your practice when you are not in the room? Okay, that is your reputation and that is your brand. So XYZ Counseling, you know, we're in this big group of a case consultation, or we're just in this networking group of clinicians in your area, and you step out, you go to the bathroom, and somebody is, and the group then talks about your practice, okay? What do you want them to say? XYZ Counseling is, they're really hip, right? They've got a pulse on what the young market needs or what young clients are dealing with these days. They are in the know, okay? That is a brand. You are the hip practice, okay? ABC therapist stands up, leaves the table, goes to the restroom, whatever, and then the rest of us are talking about their practice, and we say, you know, ABC practice, they're really into that holistic stuff. They do the homeopathic stuff. They really want the client to experience healing at a whole level. They address every part of the client, not just the mental health. So that would be ABC Counseling or ABC Therapy's brand. Okay, what are people saying about you when you're not there? And the great part about this is you are the one who shapes it. So what do you want them to be saying? And then just start doing that, okay? So another way to think about this, if this is still feeling a little bit, all right, out there, is remember back to a time if you've planned your own wedding, or if you've had a sibling or a cousin or a friend who's planned a wedding. If you can't think of a wedding, think of like a corporate event or a conference, okay? There are all kinds of separate elements to that wedding. There's the invitations, there's the centerpieces, there's the food, there's the colors, there's the flowers, there's the cake, all of that stuff. And then when you're thinking about a wedding, you plan it around a theme, right? So maybe you have like a rustic woodland theme wedding. So the colors of your invitation, the font that you choose, if you're planning a rustic woodland wedding, you're probably not using like a black tie, New York Met kind of font on your invitations, right? It's all makes sense for the theme that you're planning. So that's what your brand would be. The copy on your website, you want it to convey that you are that hip practice, or you want it to convey that you are that holistic practice. The visuals on your website, maybe you have like pictures of clients who are like hipsters or dressed in modern fashions or young, right? Trying to convey that hip vibe. Maybe the colors on your website are hipper, bolder, right? Or whereas if you're a holistic practice, maybe you've got pictures of like succulents on your website and on your social media. Maybe the colors that you use on your website and social media are more like sagey greens and lavendery purples, right? So you can see how your visuals impact the brand as well. Also think about what's in your waiting room. Maybe the holistic practice serves like hot water and tea with lemon and honey or something like that. Whereas the hipster practice has like 5 Keurigs and, you know, different kinds of coffees or whatever, right? So you can see how even the environment that you create in your practice lends itself to your brand. Another thing to think about is how you introduce yourself at this networking event, or say you go and meet a doctor office, or say you're having a coffee date with another referral source. How do you introduce your practice? Do you say, you know, I partner with young women who want to integrate every aspect of themselves and create an identity that feels whole and complete? That sounds more like the holistic practice, that integrative homeopathic type practice. Whereas the hipster practice might say, I help a young woman feel like she's got, she's jiving with herself, like she is representing who she really wants to be and she's living her truth, all of that. That might resonate more with the hipster brand, okay? So I know I've kind of juxtaposed 2 really interesting ideas here, but I'm hoping you're seeing that a brand is just what you want people to feel and think and experience your practice. It's just like planning. So make sure you hop on into the Online Marketing with Empathy group where we can start building some of these brands for you. Thanks, guys.